All right, everybody. Tonight's episode of Wrestlemagic, we are talking about underpushed stars. We're going to have a little bit of fun tonight. Of course, we being the gardener and Dario and myself. So, without further ado, guys, how we doing tonight?
I'm great.
Dario, how are you doing?
Doing all right. Doing all right.
That's what I like to hear. By the way, do you have a moniker? What do you go by? Like, I'm the gardener because I love the garden. What about you, Dario?
I never really thought of one.
Well, then I guess maybe we should let the listeners name you. That's kind of like how I got my name, because everybody knows I'd love to grow hot peppers, and I made some really awesome Carolina Reapers this year, so I just want to keep going with that flow. How about you, Mav? How you doing, brother? Maintenance Mav?
Just another day in maintenance, man. Things have been interesting lately. I'll say that much. I can't give too much away. You guys know how that is.
Well, I understand that, but when are you going to return?
Well, we'll see. I mean, I feel like I'm kind of back right now for whatever it is that we're doing, and honestly, I'm glad that we can be a part of this for the moment. But anyways, yeah, let's get right into it. So yeah, tonight we're talking about underpushed stars. Gardner, do you want to start off, man?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a person that I was really a big fan of, but they killed the character off because of the way that they had portrayed him during the timeline of what was happening in real history. And I'm talking about none other than, and this is going to be controversial, Muhammad Hassan. First of all, the man who portrayed Muhammad Hassan was actually Italian. And while his life in WWE was, his lifespan in WWE was very short, he exuded a weird charisma. He could get under everybody's skin. He could do, he was great in the ring. He wasn't Rob Van Dam flippy. He wasn't Randy Orton captivating. He wasn't CM Punk charisma, but he had a little bit of each. He had about 30% of each. Well, 30%, 30%, 30% is 90%. And he had something. The way he portrayed his character of the the person that had what he felt was reverse racism, it was an interesting character. And I honestly think that the money in the character would have been eventually a face turn. However, it never got to be that long because WWE wasted him by using him in a terrorist angle against The Undertaker, and then using what seemed to be terrorists as henchmen right after bombings in London.
Oh, God, that just seems way too far, man.
And the thing is, they had this filmed. It was in the can. They could have cut it out. They could have put something else in. There's other ways to do this. Now, WWE has always claimed, well, we didn't know about the bombings until the day of, things like that. There's always he, she, it. So they sent him back down to OVW down here in Louisville, and then they released the guy, but it wasn't his fault. And basically, I don't know which network it was. I want to say it might have been still UPN at the time. They said, if this guy's still on your show, we're canceling your show. Okay. Now, they weren't big on masked wrestlers at the time, but throw the guy a mask and let him wrestle somebody else. There's no reason to fire a man who clearly he could do some stuff in the ring. And he had something on the mic. There's ways of repackaging somebody. They just didn't give that benefit. They were just so afraid of being canceled by the network, or, okay, switch him over to Raw and USA under a mask. Wait 6 months. I feel that the man had way more potential than they ever untapped. And I feel that, like I said, you could have made him. I know masked wrestling is I guess some say passe. I still kind of miss some of my masked wrestlers. You go down to Mexico, they don't want you to have a bare face. So we're talking different dynamics here. So he bounced around, and then the man became a school teacher. God bless him. He educated people. He does wrestling conventions and things like that to this day. But, I mean, he educates people. He even felt bad about the whole angle. He didn't, when he knew what was happening on TV versus what he had filmed, he knew that his career was over. That was not fair to somebody as buddingly talented as he was. So I really feel that Muhammad Hassan was given a bad hand of cards, and I think that WWE could have done better, especially knowing that they had it in the can and they could have done something to fill those 20 minutes. There's always a way. They love their talking segments. There's always a way. So that's my number one. Any thoughts on Muhammad Hassan?
I mean, he was definitely a heat generator for sure. Now, I do think that the fact that they chose to make that character was in poor taste, just given everything that's been going on, with the political climate at that time. That was just a terrible idea, and to scapegoat a dude's career or I don't know some really BS patriotism. It was just kind of it was not a savory thing to experience. And I mean, I was a teenager when he was on TV, and even then, I was just like, I don't know about this.
Oh man, the whole patriotic angles and everything, it always kind of, especially nowadays, it falls a little more flat than it used to. But we're not in the days of, Cold War and we need America number one all the time sort of thing. So it does just seem like just a bad idea. That's one of those things that, yeah, you're going to generate heat for sure, but it's not good heat. You want to have somebody go out there dressed as a Klansman? That's not going to get you any kind of good heat. They're going to get ran out of town, which, might be good for that night for TV, but after that, it's like you might have just ruined that person's life. It's not going to go well for them anyways. But yeah, on from that, Daryl, who would you like to add in?
So normally I would I'd save the big one for last, but this one's pretty important to me. Kangan, the innovator of offense. Kangan did not get treated well in the WWE, mostly due to the fact that he was gay. And they really did a terrible job. The terrible thing, not even terrible job, just terrible thing in like burying him so hard, and just kind of making an absolute mockery of him. And the nickname, the innovator of offense, was about as true as you could get for this guy. Because if you look at all the indie wrestlers, he basically walked so they could run. Everything that you see indie wrestlers do nowadays was something that Kangan did in WCW. Like, as far as turnbuckle neck breakers, as far as modified spine busters, like sit out spine busters, the flatliner. Everyone has a flatliner finisher. Everyone has one. And he was the dude that really like pioneered that. And as far as like his character, he was a goofball. He was silly as all get out, but he made up for the silliness when he stepped in the ring. You saw it every night that he was in the ring. Like, he had great mic skills, and despite the overbite that he had that kind of created a bit of a list for him, it was more or less masked by the fact that, he's from the East Coast. So he just kind of had like a typical East Coaster accent and just, had a little effect to it. But I mean, the dude had a great look. I mean, he was like, what, 6'4", 6'5", or something.
He was tall. Yeah,
he was
really
a
tall.
big dude. He had a great physique. I mean, when he showed up as Mortis, this dude's like a Mortal Kombat-esque character, and demonstrated all of his skill with that character. And then when the mask came off, he donned like a hat and the denim cut off, and he had so much personality. And it's hard to find someone like that nowadays that just came off as that, unique and organic. He always has something to show people. And like the Jersey Triad, he had DDP in his corner. He had
great little that could have went far in the Attitude Era in WWE if they would have put those three together.
Right. But unfortunately, because the company WCW got bought out,
Yes.
just about every wrestler got buried, other than the ones that really got over just because they were too big of an attraction to just throw to the wayside. And they didn't see that in Canyon, even though, come on, he had the catchphrase. And anybody who's a wrestling fan, if you say who's better, everyone else should go than Canyon. And let's be real, I don't think there were too many people that were better than him at that time.
He had a unique skill set, and I remember the first city he got over in. And do you know what it is?
I do not.
Lexington, Kentucky. He came out and he said, "So I want to ask all you Wildcat fans, who's better than Canyon?" And they all screamed, "Nobody." And he grabbed the mic. He said, "They love me. They really love me."
Right. Like, he was a character, just as a person. You could tell the dude just was a character, but he was unfortunately troubled by being a closeted man in a very hyper masculine and, honestly, in a lot of ways, toxically masculine industry. But it didn't detract from his skill in every aspect of the business.
I do have one question about him now. Kenyon's a little bit before my time, but I know a little bit about him. Wasn't he part of a tag team called like Men at Work or something like that?
Oh, with Joey Maggs. Oh, it was bad.
Yeah, I agree. But the point that I wanted to make here wasn't it 1995 when WWE was coming out with all these stupid occupation gimmicks that just nobody cared about? You know, Kane was a dentist. There was plumbers and stuff like that, and nobody could really relate to them. But thing is, with Men at Work, it's like, even if that might have worked, why are we doing that in, what was it, like 98 or something? It just didn't make any sense. I don't get it.
The ironic thing about that is when he came out as Mortis. So first of all, do you guys know why he was Mortis?
Blood Runs Cold, that video game that was supposed to come out. It was going to be Glacier, Mortis, and wasn't there a third guy that was also involved with
Glacier Wrath, who turned out it was Brian Clark, who ended up being one part of Chronic, who was also
Brian Adams.
It was Brian Clark. Brian Adams was Crush, who ended up being his tag partner.
Right.
So the idea that Eric Bischoff came up with was that Mortal Kombat was so big that they would create these characters and they were going to be main eventers, but people weren't buying it because Glacier was DS's in the ring, and that means the drizzling S words. And I mean, he was god awful garbage, one of the worst performers I've ever seen in my life. But we're not going to go there. And they've even interviewed Canyon. He's like, "Okay, look, you look terrible in the ring. You strike a pose and walk around with it." He's like, "It's gotten old. You look terrible." And everybody booed them. And then they tried to push him one time where they had the NWO in the ring and some of the WCW guys came to the ring, and then the Blood Runs Cold guys came to the ring, and they kept zooming on the Blood Runs Cold guys, and the fans kept booing because they mostly would focus on Glacier. So, and if you know my story about the time I met Glacier, it's kind of funny, but the point is, do you know? Well, obviously we all know like how talented Canyon was, and the Innovator of Offense was a knockoff on Tommy Dreamer's nickname of the Innovator of Violence because they had him tagging up with Perry Saturn at the time. However, he did innovate a lot of things. He did come up with a lot of moves. There was two different versions of the Flatliner. One was like a Faymaster over the second rope or from the second turnbuckle, and then the second one was the face first. And he was the one who did it the best. Jeff Jarrett couldn't do it. The Miz sure as hell can't do it. He can't do a damn thing. But do you know the three famous people I can name that Canyon trained as wrestlers?
Who are they?
I can name the Young Bucks. I believe were trained by him, but I wouldn't say they're like probably the most famous.
Well, they would be the most famous. That's two of them. So there's one more.
I don't know the last one then.
Daryl?
I couldn't tell you.
Brian Cage.
Interesting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just saw an interview about that.
Yeah. And so in the 90s to early 2000s, there was a wrestling game. It was like on a disc. It was all text based that you could get for a PC, like a Microsoft PC, and it was called WLS. And you would put together your card, and then it would generate your card and give you how everything happened. It was really cool. We used to do e-feds all the time back then, using this as a system. And in between, it would give you different facts about real wrestlers. It'd be like Mr. JL is actually Jerry Lynn, Mr. This, da 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 da. Well, one of the fun facts, and this is not meant to be controversial, is like it said, it is known that Raven is actually a homosexual. Well, if you ever watch The Dark Side of the Ring with Canyon and some interviews with Raven, you'll find out that when Canyon moved across the United States between wrestling gigs, he had a lot of his adult material in his moving basket above his car. When he got to his place, it spilled over, and his brothers found it. And they're like, "What's all this?" And so he blamed it on Raven. He said, "Raven must have ribbed me. This was a joke." And so he called Raven right away, and he said, "Raven, look, I'm gay." And Raven's like, "Okay." And he's like, "So you don't care?" He's like, "No, I don't care. You're my friend." So Raven took that heat, not necessarily heat, I would call it lukewarm, but that followed his career for a while and became like an underground rumbling. There's your Canyon moment of the day. And so he was like, "Yeah," he's like, "if it's going to protect you from your family, I'll take care of it."
Fair enough.
Raven being a stand-up dude, hell yeah.
Yeah, I should have asked him about that, but I didn't really realize at the time. But anyway, so back on the subject of our stars who weren't really pushed as much. So the person that I want to throw into there, who they still have a chance, I'll say that. But first one I'm going to say is Ricochet. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I feel like he was one of the best that I had seen between Lucha Underground, between his work in Japan. Even some of his WWE stuff was still good, but it felt like a neutered version of Ricochet, and that kind of did bother me to see it that way. Because, I mean, seeing Prince Puma back when Lucha Underground was still a thing, man, that was incredible. And then you see these talents kind of going to waste and not doing anything, really. I think last thing that he did in WWE was he was like a speed champion or something. I barely think he got, tag titles and maybe the Intercontinental, if that. I don't even know if he got that, honestly. But it kind of bothered me just to see, like, this guy had so much potential. He was so incredible, and WWE snatched him up just so they could sit him on a shelf and say, okay, nobody else can have you. Now we're going to make sure that nobody else is going to be able to push you for this entire time. They can't use him against us because we have you. That's all they really did with him. It bugged me so much inside. I still get really annoyed just thinking about it because he was such a star with so much promise, and I wish they would have just let him be him and really be the star that he could have been. Any thoughts, guys?
You want to take it first, Ariel?
I've seen a lot of Ricochet. Definitely an insanely talented dude, and I feel like someone of his caliber, I think it's going to be a little hard for him to thrive in an environment like the WWE because, it's still kind of the big man's game there. You don't really have a whole lot of divisions for him to wrestle in outside of like Continental and, US and all that. And I think his move to AEW was a really smart one in the sense that it's like, okay, you are now in an environment where you get to thrive in the way that you should. Now I don't know how he's being used there right now. So it's it's still a hazy area for me. But everything I've seen of Ricochet has been impressive. I mean, the dude does things that, as I've heard the Undertaker say it, and if you see him do it, it looks like stuff straight out of a video game, and he does it flawlessly. And he has a great look. It's just, I feel the WWE definitely tends to mistreat a lot of talent by not giving them any type of platform to like showcase their skills or limiting what they can do.
I would agree with you on that. I feel like that's the basis of this obvious conversation that we're having for this podcast. I would like to say that Ricochet, I saw him back in like 2015. I started studying independent wrestlers who I thought were going to break through the bubble, and minus one wrestler, everybody I predicted went to WWE, and that one wrestler was AR Fox. And AR Fox is just as amazing as Ricochet. He's just a little bit older, and his build isn't as exactly flattering, but he can do some amazing things. So, with that being said, his matches with Will Ospreay, some of the ones from the past in Japan and things like that, were a little too cartoony. They were a little too.
They're indie-ish. That's fair, honestly.
Yes. They did way too many high spots. But the guy is like talented out the frame. They thought that they had the next Rey Mysterio on him, and they tried to definitely WWE him when he was first introduced to WWE audiences in NXT. They introduced him as Trevor Mann, his real name. Like, oh, here's Trevor Mann. You might know him as Ricochet. And I was like, Trevor Mann means nothing to people. Ricochet means something to people. If you have 100,000 followers who know you as Ricochet and 0 followers as Trevor Mann, you're starting from nothing or you're starting from something. And so they went with the Ricochet, which I liked. And you can't, I don't think you can actually trademark that because it's a word.
Yeah.
It's like trademarking tree, So the matches he had were great. Some of the people he put over were not so great. I think that he was definitely a wasted talent, but at least he got Miss Irvin, and she's really hot, and good for you, Ricochet. God bless you. She's so beautiful. Seriously, you know the way I like him, Mav. Also, I will say that with he being in AEW, they need to concentrate on his strengths. He does definitely need to work on his promo skills because his promos are mediocre at best. They're not great. I think that he could have a strong promo if he actually concentrates on it a little bit more. He does that, he could be pushed up into the upper echelon like Will Ospreay is. It wouldn't hurt for him to put on about 15 more pounds. I know it might limit his aerial ability, but not every move needs to be a high spot. And if he did what WWE did with him and not make every move his high spot, he's going to be okay. So that's what I want to see for him. I just think that like the sky's the limit.
All right, fair enough. I do agree. However, I do have one thing to say about that, and that is they could give him just another mouthpiece, really, and have him go back to the Puma gimmick, and it would actually work okay, I feel like. Prince Puma in Lucha Underground, he was pretty well received at the time. I thought he was fine at the time. Not everybody really needs to be a mouthpiece, but to have a good mouthpiece, if they were to stick somebody like Heyman or MVP with him, it could work pretty well, I will say, but not to take away from what you're saying. His promo work definitely needed some help for sure.
Well, here's a good trivia question for you guys then, or not a trivia question, but who do you make his mouthpiece? Because MVP, if you're going to manage Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, you don't have room in your stable for Ricochet. Now, if Armando Alejandro Alessandro is still floating around somewhere in the ethos of the world, and he's not signed to WWE, that could be your mouthpiece right there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know very much. Or the Swerve Strickland goes over, which will turn into an internal battle between Bobby Lashley and Strickland over who's the real leader. In the meantime, Prince Nana takes over Ricochet. What do you think of that, guys?
It could actually work a little bit.
I'm saying, like, with Ricochet, I think it would probably be best if they just gave him a valet.
Yeah, that could work too.
That
could,
because you don't necessarily need to have like the promoter there, but if you give him, I don't know, and I hate saying this, but some eye candy to go with the gimmick, it's like, cool, you have 2 people that can get over.
The perfect person for that, ever since they split up, would be Britt Baker. She has a poison tongue.
That would be really interesting, honestly, now that I think about it. Britt Baker would be perfect for that.
especially the way she she can get under people's skin. I think that Britt Baker would be the perfect person, and then that sets up a feud with Adam Cole. Those could be good matches if Adam Cole could ever get healthy. That could be really awesome.
Actually, yeah, I could see that. But yeah, moving on. We don't need to stick on Ricochet for much longer. Gardner, who you got next, man?
All right, so he's back on TV, but he was on hiatus for almost 10 years, and I think that this guy was supposed to be pushed to the heavens, except they dropped him in a dumpster instead, and I'm going to go with Carlito, and I'm going to tell you why. First of all, signing Carlito was not only just a move because of his talent, but it was also a move because of the political agreement with Puerto Rico. Now, the agreement with Puerto Rico, the WWC, Carlos Colon owns it. That's the father of Carlito. He basically would hide talent down there. If Vince in the 90s needed to rehab somebody or get them ready for TV, if he wasn't using Memphis and didn't want to put them on ECW TV, he would ship them down to Puerto Rico and let them work in front of these large stadium audiences, okay? So his liaison in the 90s was Savio Vega. And a lot of the people that they brought up they fizzled out. But then they struck gold with Carlito. Now let's look at something. Carlito's debut on both Raw and SmackDown, even though it's the same company, it's just different shows. On each show, didn't he beat John Cena for a title on each? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I feel like he has.
Yeah, I believe it was U.S. title on one, Intercontinental on the other. And then
I remember him being the U.S. champion for a while.
Does anybody know why his title is called or why his finisher is called the Backstabber?
I mean, apart from the fact that he drops you on your back on his knees.
No. Math? Any? Bruiser Brody was killed in WWC. His father's organization, stabbed in the kidneys by Jose Gonzalez. They say that his father was always in on it. You can listen to Dutch Mantel. You can listen to all these famous podcasters, and they will tell you. Tony Atlas will tell you the story that Tony Atlas had to sleep on the beach that night because he was afraid that he was going to get killed too. It's called the Backstabber because that was the move that was used to kill Bruiser Brody and his father's organization. Let that one sink in for a second. The guy had all the talent in the world. He was supposed to be basically the third in the line of the John Cena, Randy Orton, who's the next guy kind of thing. You had Batista in there. Carlito had everything. But his attitude and knowing that he could go back down to Puerto Rico and reign in hell as opposed to serve in heaven in WWE is what made him so dispensable to them. And that's when they turned him into a comedic character. He was supposed to be a heel. He went all across the country dressing as a goof and everything else, but he got overdoing it. And my favorite was when he came to Memphis and he came out as Elvis, and instead of everybody booing him, they were just chanting his name over and over, and he got mad and stomped off the stage. Carlito is incredibly talented. If you can see what he could do in the ring, it's amazing. And the fact that we let 10 years of his life go by without touching him the right way and letting him have the proper push that he needed. He could have been a main eventer. He really could have been a main eventer, especially in the stale 2010s. When he and Punk could have worked a program, or when Punk was gone, Carlito could have been something that infused something instead of just John Cena, Randy Orton, John Cena. He could have done a lot of things. There's a lot of programs that he could have worked at. There's a lot of missed programs that he could have been part of. And I really feel that his talent level, honestly, don't base him on what he is today. He's almost my age. And look, I'm almost 50. If he can still go and he looks that great at his age, I don't think he's quite as old as me. But to be in that great a shape and still go the way he does, that's pretty damn amazing. And so to think what could have happened for 10 to 12 year absence and the way they wanted him originally if he just didn't have a bad attitude, and the sky was the limit and the limit was the sky. What do you guys think? D?
From what I saw, Carlito, I very much enjoyed the character of being like the cool guy. He definitely was over. Even as a heel, it's kind of hard to dislike the dude. I mean, from the hair to the way he carried himself, he just kind of had like he owned the cool guy angle, and he's one of those guys you could love to hate or just hate that you love him so much. He had great talent in the ring. Seeing him now, I mean, he looks fantastic. Like as you stated before, he looks incredible. Like better than he did when he first showed up. Honestly, yeah, I don't know why he's like affixed to a stable right now, though. I feel like he should definitely just let him be his own wrestler instead of kind of aligning himself with a faction that's eventually just going to fizzle out anyway.
You've got a really good point there. He's not actually part of Judgment Day. And what people don't realize, and I've said this like on Wade Keller's podcast, is let's take some stock here. Damian Priest is fighting the Judgment Day. Damian Priest is Puerto Rican. What is Carlito, who's technically not part of Judgment Day? Puerto Rican. Exactly. So I think that there's some kind of internal thing. I hope that they would use that for some kind of like turn or something to, use that with. I'd like to see some gold around his waist. I'd love to actually see him win. I hate Money in the Bank because I think that is the worst thing. I think that killed the under titles, and that's a whole other conversation for another day. But I'd like to see him win Money in the Bank and win the one of the straps one time, even if it's for a day. I'd love to see it. So, yeah. All right, who's up next?
Yeah, I guess I could go real quick and pass it off to Daryl next afterwards.
Okay.
So, all right, this next guy that I'm going to talk about, came from Japan. He was a huge deal over there, came to WWE, and then once again was neutered. And I'm talking about nobody other than Shinsuke Nakamura.
Oh, God.
I honestly really loved seeing his work in NXT. I loved seeing some of his past stuff from Japan. My God, that guy can work. Being the king of strong style, they meant it. He was NWJP or NJPW's, or God, I don't even remember what they call the title. It's like IWGP junior heavyweight champion at like 23 years old. They put the strap on him kind of young, and he held it for a while, but they really put trust in him because you could see why. Coming to America and doing WWE thing, it's the WWE version of Shinsuke, and the American audience doesn't get to see it the same way. But I remember so many people in comment sections on Facebook and stuff saying he doesn't even wrestle. He's not, doing this right. And I'm sitting here like he's doing it the way that he can because WWE's not letting him have matches the way that he was able to before. He used to be a very hard-hitting person that I would have compared a little bit to Dynamite Kid in the way that he was just stiff, but not stiff hurting people, but he made it look like, wow, that actually seems like it really hurt to deal with. And him
like
being
that
just
Stu Hart type of wrestling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying. And it just sucks that they have to neuter these guys to be WWE-ified or whatever you want to call it. And I'm not somebody who necessarily just hates WWE and everything they do, but I really get annoyed when somebody has a style and it is so over with the crowd and everything, and then they get to the big league and the big league basically looks at them and says, no, you have to do it our way because this is what works. And it doesn't work for them. It really still doesn't work for Shinsuke. He's not quite the same. At best, he's kind of a mid-carder now. I haven't seen him get a real title push ever. I think he had a match with Cena and got himself a title match. And then after that, because he almost really hurt Cena in that match, he basically got pushed back down again.
And well, he headlined WrestleMania against AJ Styles and he lost after he won the Royal Rumble and he eliminated Roman Reigns and everybody was behind him. Mm-hmm. Legend says that in New Japan, when he wrestled Brock Lesnar, he actually knocked one of Brock Lesnar's teeth out.
I could see that. Hard-hitting guy. But yeah, so I believe Shinsuke Nakamura, he deserves more of a push. And I hate that we're probably never going to see it until he leaves for maybe in JPW, maybe AEW again. Who knows? But yeah,
probably go to Noah.
Maybe. I could see him going to Noah. And he did have that match with, I believe it was Muda. He retired him there, I thought.
Yes, he did. And that was a fantastic match. And it's like, if you actually want to see what Shinsuke Nakamura can do, you want to watch that. But we can't scrape the scum off of our tongues after watching the fact that he had to job cleanly to Jinder Mahal.
Mm-hmm.
That's what killed his career. And that's why Noble, and then they put him with Rick Boogs. And I remember like listeners to this channel, and I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you, you're stupid. You're an idiot. All the people who would go to the mailbag and say, oh, I think Rick Boogs can be a world champion. Well, I think you're inbred. Okay. Daryl, you want to disagree with me? Anybody want to say anything about that? Like any idiot who thought that the guy was muscular and he had a mustache. He looked like a poor man's Rick Steiner and had a third of the skill.
I'm not super familiar with Rick Boogs. And
good for you.
I've only
for
seen
you.
a little bit of Shinsuke, but what I've seen of him was very impressive. I loved his look. I love like just how he conducted himself in the ring. I mean, clearly he, as you say, he was WWE-ified or however you want to like call it. Because I feel like if you got something called strong style, oh, I want to see somebody get knocked, like not hurt, but I want to see that hard hitting style more.
You want to see some Stan Hansen, Bruiser Brody, don't you?
Yeah, I want to see that Stu Hart-esque type of. Oh yeah, we're gonna make it look solidly convincing. You might even feel it a little bit,
Exactly.
Because if that's gonna be your angle, I want to see that angle sold very well. Like when people called like Taz a human suplex machine, and he lived up to it because he chucked people around the ring, and it's like, yep, that dude is definitely a machine about chucking people around the ring. I like seeing that, So I definitely would like to do some more research on him and just see like what he had going for him before he came to the West.
Fair enough. If I could recommend anything, NXT, watch his match with Sami Zayn. The crowd was going nuts for it that night. That was the first time I've ever heard a WWE crowd chanting "Fight Forever." And then I will say the Noah match. I still haven't seen it, but I've heard incredible things about it, so I still need to see it myself. Honestly,
He and Muda.
Yes.
Yeah, that was insane. It's just crazy like what they did in the ring, and look at Wrestle Kingdom, I think 11, and I think it was him versus AJ Styles, and AJ Styles was the king of the Bullet Club or leader of the Bullet Club at one point, and he like gets bounced in the ropes and he does the finger and points like the gun like AJ Styles does, and Nakamura catches the bullet in the air, which is not real, and puts it in his mouth and eats it. It's amazing. Amazing. He is, like you said, if any guy who could knock out one of Brock Lesnar's teeth, reportedly, is pretty hardcore, and then you have him do a solid job to Jinder Mahal, a guy that wasn't worth. He wasn't worth a rental car.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get into that right now, but we'll go into like champions who never should have been champions at another show. I don't know if you guys want to be on that show, but I would love to have you both on that show.
All right. Sounds good. But yeah, moving on from Shinsuke, Daryl, who's your next man?
My next one is Kid Cash.
Nice pick.
Kid Cash is legendary. I mean, getting his start in like the Smoky Mountain, being a tag team partner with Ricky Morton and such, like dude had a history behind him. And then moving on to ECW and really getting established there. And yeah, he was definitely like on the lookalike train, which, you get a number of those wrestlers and they just kind of go ahead and run with it. But I mean, he owned it. He killed it. Like I think seeing, and I have been watching a lot of his matches leading up to this, just, see what else he had going for him. And the guy, despite being of a shorter stature, because he was like, what, 5'8", 5'9", and he wasn't like a heavyweight. But the thing is, he was aware of that.
90.
Yeah, he cleared about 200.
Okay.
He cleared 200 pretty close, like evenly. he had to wrestle big because he knew kind of industry he was in. If he's gonna go do big promotions, they're not gonna look at him for very long because he's not a big guy. But because ECW really just gave people chances regardless of like their size and stature or whatever. He was able to really showcase his abilities in the ring. One, as a high flyer, which was something I wasn't really prepared to see. Going back to watching like old tapes of ECW and such, like this dude really put his body on the line for a lot of his matches. Like the moonsaults, the twisting sentons in the air. He had a lot of crazy athleticism. But the other thing is that as he moved between promotions, like he still carried a lot of his ECW style with him, but he also started mixing that with the mixed martial arts and putting in submissions and such. So as he got older, he solidified his style more to be ground based. And in addition to that, I mean, the guy had good look overall, and he had pretty alright mic skills. The guy was a heat generator. He knew how to just talk it and really get under people's skin. Like when he showed up in WWE, I mean, he won the cruiserweight title. Dude walked around like he was the baddest of the bad. And that right there shows like this guy has something that could be more than just a cruiserweight. Because once again, he had to learn to wrestle big. When you watch him against like Vic Grimes, and you see him against like C.W. Anderson, and you see him against Dustin Rhodes in TNA, like he had to wrestle those guys like he was their size, or at the very least wrestle in a way that he could take them down convincingly. And he definitely had his fair share of matches where he gave it his all, but eventually he had to like fall to the big dude. And even in his interviews, his philosophy is that like it's not very believable to see like a little dude beat a big guy. And so he had to make his style work to that. And I very much think that if they had honed in on that, I mean, that dude could have been walking around with the U.S. title, the Intercontinental title. Like he had tag championships with Jamie Noble. Like it wouldn't have been hard to see him in a heavyweight class. I mean, look at Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero. They were not very tall dudes at all. I mean, they were jacked, which helped, and he definitely bulked up over the years. I think a lot of it is that they kind of neutered his style when he got there. Like he didn't seem to like have the same level of high risk or intensity that he had from like the past promotions he worked for. And I think that they kind of squandered him on that one. And if I recall correctly, he got fired for like smoking weed in Canada or something.
Which it's primarily more legal there than it is here in the United States, which is kind of funny. But
right, and I'm pretty sure he said something about that. He was like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "This is the thing."
Well, it's legality of the company, which is where they want to sting you. But didn't he also have a cup of coffee in WCW before they shut down? Like real quick, I think that we're basing it off my I'm 50 years old memory. That basically, I think he had like one or two appearances on WCW, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And
yeah, he wrestled Jason Jett. I watched that match like right before we did this
on WCW.
He debuted as Cash, just okay. Cash spelled correctly, CASH.
His best match was against Rhino for the TV title in ECW. The way they surged the ring, that was amazing. That was awesome.
The match started on the outside of the ring, really.
Yes. But
I watched that right before this as well. I did a lot of research before I got here.
But just going to WWE, you're too small, kid. You don't have anything, kid. That's sad. And the word kid, he should have, just went to Cash or something else. There should have been a dynamic change in his name. That would have helped him, I believe, a lot more. Because like the 1, 2, 3 kid, 6, X-Pac, whatever, like he became X-Pac. But if he came back from WCW from 6 to 1, 2, 3 Kid, the word kid, it's like you're a fully grown man. You can't do that. It's like Boys to Men. Shouldn't they just be men now? That's your thought of the day.
Men's geriatrics at this point.
I think the thing is like, even if, Shawn Michaels is still the Heartbreak Kid. He's still HBK. Man is in his 50s. He's still HBK.
He should be HBM. At this point, HBG. Heartbreak Grandpa.
The thing is, it's his persona. And the thing is, like, when you have a last name like Cash, because that's actually his last name. His name is David Cash. You have a last name like Cash. It's kind of hard to pass up the opportunity to just run with whatever goes with that. And, clearly he was, based off of Kid Rock, dude who is a grown man, still, going by Kid Rock, but it's like, whatever, like, that's his thing. And the promo he cut after he won the Cruiserweight Championship in the WWE, when he's been interviewed by Funaki, he refers to himself as the Notorious KID, which I'm like, okay, that's sick.
It's funny because I remember him in TNA during the pay-per-view days of the like $9 every week pay-per-view, and when I was like emailing Jeremy Borash and Bob Ryder ideas every week, and I just remember like some of the stuff I was seeing like going on, and I remember Kid Cash like cut a promo that I just hated, and it was on Goldilocks, and I can't repeat it on here, but you can look it up, like the Kid Cash promo on Goldilocks, and then how she gets him back on it. So
I have to look that up.
Because it was pay-per-view, they could swear, so they could say dirty things that I can't say like on our paper or on our podcast.
All right. Fair enough. With that, Gardner, you want to start off with your final person?
My final person is the most underpushed person that is personally like in the company right now, that has more talent and more charisma than anybody else. And I just feel that they've really fumbled the ball. The first Universal Champion, that's Finn Balor. As Prince Devitt, he's the guy who started Bullet Club. If you didn't have Bullet Club, you wouldn't have All Elite Wrestling. The man exudes talent. He can come out as the Demon. He can come out as Sweeney Todd. He can come out as so many different versions of who he is. And to borrow from you, Daryl, he's been neutered. That man's in fantastic shape. Okay, he's 200 pounds soaking wet. He could do anything in the ring. I put him in the same class as Benoit and CM Punk, as people who are small but could do it all. And people who won world titles. And probably in Vince's regime should not have won world titles. And yet he has clean victories over both Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns in the same area to be the first Universal Champion, just to be stripped of it because Seth hurt him. And his career's never been the same. The guy he drips talent, he drips charisma, he drips everything that you need in a ring. He's smart. He can do it, and then he's stuck in a faction just to put over Damian Priest, who I think also is talented, and I'm not taking away from him, and Carlito, who we've also spoken about. But are we elevating the talent, or is the talent de-evaluating you? And as Jim Cornette, who I'm a fan of, who lives here in Louisville also, says, is he Finn Balor or is he Pin Balor? He always has to take the bite. This guy's done more in the ring than half these people have done in their whole career. He owned New Japan. He formed Bullet Club when he was a junior heavyweight. No one ever lets anybody lead Japan as a junior heavyweight, and he never declared himself as a heavyweight. And if he leaves and he goes back to Japan, he will be declared a heavyweight. It's really weird how they do that stuff, but the fact is, brass tacks and baseball bats, when we get down to it, this guy could do everything in the ring. And if he goes to All Elite, that's going to be insane. But if people also look at it, how many people who are part of the Bullet Club are in WWE now? And will he mastermind a redirection of the Bullet Club? And then Balor Club comes together. Stuttering, guys, again. So, thoughts?
Well, you are right, because he did form the Bullet Club, and wasn't it Gallows and Anderson who were also a part of it at the time?
Yeah,
I
where are
feel like-
they?
Yeah, exactly. Whatever happened to them at this point? I feel like they fell off again, which is sad, honestly, because Gallows has always been relatively talented. He just doesn't really get the push, because wasn't he like Festus at one point?
Yes. And Anderson is actually
That
super
was
talented.
Festus.
Mhm.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And Anderson is like super talented.
Agreed. But yeah, it's sad to see when, God, Vince's regime used to really like to take people that were really famous from other companies and kind of just burn them a little bit, it seemed like. If you were made somewhere else and they brought you in, whether it was WCW or wherever, if they couldn't rebrand you to be something special that, oh yeah, the crowd's never seen this before, quote unquote, then it was, okay, we're just going to kind of make him look stupid and then send him on his way because WWE's the only way, sort of thing. They wanted to push their own homegrowns, and half the time it didn't really help out that much. That's something I really despised about Vince for a while, or things like, did you ever notice that certain female wrestlers use TNA's top stars finishers?
I mean, I pointed out for a while.
Yeah, and I
I get
believe
it.
you may have started the conversation for me when all of a sudden seeing the Styles Clash used by certain female wrestlers, and it's like, wow, wonder why that is, Vince. The misogyny continues, sort of thing, you know?
Yeah, he wanted to diminish people's finishers from other territory, or not territories, but other companies, and make it a woman's finisher. And Vince, burn in hell.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with that, but yeah, that was just kind of a crappy time for what it was. But yeah, I do agree. Balor is very underrated, underpushed. He is somebody who's deserved so much more. He's able to play a theatrical character. He's able to go out there and just be a little closer to human, being himself, but he can also pull out that whole demon thing. And you know what? I'm going to buy into it as much as I bought into The Undertaker. You know what? No, he's not an actual dead man, but I'm going to watch it and be very entertained by it. It's because it's him and he knows how to pull it off very, very well. Daryl, you have any thoughts on Balor?
Um, honestly, Balor showed up around a time where I mean I was still out of the loop, so I'm gonna have to do some catching up on him. From what I've seen of him, like he has a great look, and I'm still a little like iffy about the double stomp super, like the finisher or whatever. It's just I don't know. Like you got Swerve running it, he's doing it. I don't know how many more people are gonna do it. I think
I mean, Kevin
if I
Sullivan
watched
started it in like '84.
yeah, and it does work better for like lighter wrestlers. I think it's a little bit less harsh on the body from what I can tell. But I have to do some catching up on him because I don't really have a super strong opinion. All I know is he was 1/3 of like Judgment Day, which to be honest, he did seem a bit overshadowed by them because you got Priest who looks fantastic, has a just owns the whole look and everything. And then you got Rhea Ripley, who's also kind of a machine. So he kind of just fell to the wayside with those two.
Agreed,
Agreed.
definitely.
All right.
And that's the saddest part, because then like JD McDonough, I think, is a huge talent, and I feel that like because he's part of Judgment Day, he's fell to the wayside because he could do so much more. And that's like just a throw in. The fact that like he's jobbed out to R-Truth. I know R-Truth is like special and teaches people, and he's older than me. He's like 55 and in great shape. But the fact is, he doesn't need to keep taking W's over current talent. You're burying current talent. JD McDonough has talent. If you've watched his matches with Ilya Dragunov, holy biscuits. Trust me. So, all right, who's next?
All right, Daryl, you want to finish off your list, bud?
Yeah, I'll finish off here with Mark Jindrak.
Okay.
So Mark Jindrak, I saw a little bit of his work in the ring, and at first he really just seemed like, your typical kind of not super tall guy, but obviously one of the Vince hopefuls. Oh, he's tall, he's got, great look, good physique, but he didn't stand out a whole lot until I started looking into him because I was like, whatever happened to that dude? And so I remembered that he was wrestling in Mexico. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna look
Yeah.
at all this stuff from Mexico. And what I saw blew my mind. I'm like, what? First of all, the main thing that stood out to me is his vertical. The dude is a human grasshopper. To see guys in an electric chair setup and he jumps up and drop kicks them, not in the gut, in the chest. Like, we're talking two
Right, I'm
dudes who are
stunned.
very, very clearly like, you know, 5'9", 5'10", still not exactly like when you stack two dudes who are roughly about the same height on top of each other, that's pretty tall. And then I would see him come from the ramp and jump across the ropes and sail all the way across the ring with a cross body block from like the end of the ramp. Not even when the mat starts. I'm like, wait, what do you mean? I'm like, this dude is doing this? Why wasn't he getting pushed? And apparently he just wasn't allowed to be him. He wasn't allowed to do the things that he was good at. And I'm like, this dude is insane. How did you just let this slip through the cracks? I'm like, that right there is like, I don't know what his mic skills were like, but whatever. Throw him with the manager. That's
Well,
what
you
they
had Ric
always
Flair
do.
for that. You had Ric
Right.
Flair for that at the time, so.
Right.
But go
So
ahead, sir.
the thing is that he was in a vignette for Evolution because
Yes,
there
I've
was
seen that.
like some issue at the time where like I guess Batista wasn't like quite ready to be like he was out or something or other. So they filmed a vignette with Mark Jindrak, but apparently even Triple H didn't want him in the thing. He was like, he's not going to be in Evolution. And I'm like, what? Why not? Like, I mean, clearly, yeah, he's got Randy Orton, and he probably would have overshadowed Randy. So you never know. It probably was like the Orton last name has weight. Jindrak, maybe not. But seeing that
Fair
dude,
enough.
I'm like, huh, they really just let that dude go. And, he went to Mexico and did his thing. And honestly, I mean, granted, he's an older guy now, so he's probably not jumping nearly like 7 feet up in the air and drop kicking people, but whatever. I'm sure he still has it if he's still wrestling. It would be great to see that dude come back because that's a level of athleticism you don't normally see from people, especially someone his stature.
Now, what I'll say is, like, I remember when he tag teamed with Sean O'Hare, and I thought that guy was going to be the big one, and I thought he would be part of Evolution, but they, picking Jindrak was, I mean, he had everything. They said that he just felt like in his mind he was not ready for it. That's kind of sad. Like, I hate for any talent to like go into a situation where they feel they're just not ready for it and basically be like, you know, essing their pants before they go out because they're just not ready for it. So I don't know what it is. I don't know the true story. I don't know the background, but you have a really good pick there because didn't he go on to do the MTV like Wrestling X or something like that?
I'm not sure about that part. I can't really corroborate that one because I didn't follow up on anything past like the stuff that he did in the early 2000s in like WWE, and then like the stuff he did in Mexico. But I
Well,
mean, I remember, the reflection of perfection, which I'm like, yo, bro, that that moniker with this look, why weren't you pushing this?
Because WWE, you weren't Triple H, you weren't John Cena, you weren't, whatever at the time.
And
They only
they
had the
just had a
construct.
monopoly on it, they had a monopoly on the industry. Because if that dude had any other place to go, I mean, I guess he could have went to TNA, but like that dude had any other place to go, that is a world champion right there.
Well, I think that he has won like many championships down in Mexico. It's just a different situation. Like moving to Mexico, I've been to Mexico many times. Have you ever been to Mexico? Either of you?
No.
Nope.
Okay, I've been to Tijuana, which is a very scary city, and basically they always say like, you bring two IDs with you. You have one in your wallet and one in your sock, so they can't get it away from you. And you cross the border, and the first, if you walk across the border from Tijuana to actually we're going to go party on Revolution Street, is a demilitarized zone where there's high rises that are vacant, graffitied. Everything's crazy. I don't know why anybody would be there. So if Mark Jindrak went down there and he made money, that means he went to Mexico City and he went to the epicenter of where you can make money. And so you can live down there for 50 cents on the dollar for American money, especially back then. So he made a lot of money and he's probably living like a king. I get it, but he could have still been part of Evolution. So,
And I think a lot of it may have had something to do with the fact that like there's a guy whose last name carries weight. He's what, like a fourth generation or third generation wrestler,
Orton
and Randy Orton. And so I think that's kind of what probably killed his momentum, is just the fact that they're like, well, we can't really throw this other guy under the bus, because the Orton would have probably had something to say about it. But yeah, I mean, it was.
But they replaced him with Batista, so we can argue that all day.
Yeah, but Batista had this look to him that is marketable. The animal. He looks primal. He wrestled primal, and he very much looked like the bodyguard of the group. It's like you got the three A-listers, and then you got the muscle.
But Reverend Daryl, testify. What was his original gimmick?
Deacon Batista.
Exactly. So he wasn't supposed to be there. He was not supposed to be there. It was when Jindrak bailed out that they put him in.
Which, I mean, I guess is the best thing that ever happened to him, really. At least Batista, anyway.
No shizer. So, who's next?
All right, so mine will be the last one, as I believe that's 3 for all of us, correct?
That is correct.
All right, so my final one, and I'll be honest, I'm kind of calling an audible here, guys, but I've been ad-libbing this whole thing anyways. But last person for me, I'm going to say Mr. JL. Jerry Lynn, I think, was underpushed.
Man,
and
that's an understatement.
Yeah, Jesus, thinking about it, like, it just kind of hit me while I was sitting here that he has been in many, many promotions. And I remember seeing certain Dark Side of the Ring episodes, certain interviews. Apparently, he's been a pretty good mentor to a lot of the guys while they've been up and coming. There was people from XPW even that talked about, you know what? He was backstage with me. I remember Rob Black was yelling at me for taking a chair shot and putting my hand up because he wanted me to just take it straight to the face. And JL was the guy that came up behind him afterwards. After he walked away, he talked to me. He's like, hey, man, you did it right. You protected yourself. You took the shot, and it looked great. Don't worry about it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He was the voice of reason in certain areas. And he was very talented in WCW. I mean, I remember seeing him as Mr. JL masked up in certain matches from, I believe I'd been watching Nitro from 1995 for a little bit. And he was putting on matches that felt like a clinic, honestly. He was doing incredible things, and realistically, he didn't need to speak because he had the mask on. He was just, another mysterious figure. The mask adds that mystique to you. But something that I remembered thinking about was just, I didn't know really who he was at that point. I know he's now been an ECW champion. I believe his highest accolade in WWE was being a light heavyweight champion or something like that. But that was it. And I think he definitely deserved more. I'm not really sure how good his mic skills really were, but I know that in ring he was something to be reckoned, and I really enjoyed watching even a few of his matches. And I'd like to see more as I go on, and realistically just want to go digging through the past, see what I can find. What do you guys think of Jerry Lynn?
I loved Jerry Lynn growing up. I saw him in at the time WWF. And I remember I loved his theme, so that was part of the reason why I loved watching him, because I wanted to hear his theme more. That I love that. But as I've been catching up on wrestling and like going back into like the past and seeing the humble beginnings of all my favorite wrestlers, watching him in ECW was pretty awesome. One of my favorite matches with him is actually Jerry Lynn versus Taka Michinoku.
Sounds like
those two killed it. Like it was a very competitive back and forth match, and they spared no expense. They left it all in the ring, and it was great to see something like that and see what he could do in that environment. And I mean, he had great tag team matches, with like Rob Van Dam, Kid Cash, Tommy Dreamer, Mikey Whipwreck, all these, names that came up out of ECW. That dude was very, very talented. Love seeing him wrestle, and I kind of wish that he was a little younger so he could still be in the ring doing it.
Agreed. So my thoughts about Jerry Lynn, I'll tell you. I don't know if I saw him first in USWA or Global. I think I first seen him in Global Wrestling Federation, which was a short-lived Dallas-based promotion, Joe Pedicino, but I could be wrong. He was so talented. He was so amazing. I didn't see anything. He was Rob Van Dam before Rob Van Dam. He could do things that most human beings couldn't do, but the thing that he did most importantly is that he sold.
Mm-hmm.
He sold. He didn't take a high spot and pop up and be like, "Oh, I'm okay." There's only a couple people that in history that you could believe that. I didn't believe it in Hogan because Hogan sucked. He sucked in the ring. Hawk from the Road Warriors.
You can believe that.
Nikita Koloff wouldn't take a pile driver. Or actually, Hawk wouldn't take a pile driver, and Nikita would take a pile driver and get up and shake it off. They're Andre. Like, they're people you didn't sell for. Jerry Lynn was a special, great wrestling human being that taught in the ring and actually made the business better than people could ever imagine. Justin Credible's first match in ECW was against Jerry Lynn. I know this because Justin Incredible and I are friends. And without using names, he tells me, like, how do I say this? People in AEW do not want to listen to agents or listen to anybody who wants to actually help them. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, the they know best type of mentality.
Exactly. Yes.
The rebellious. Oh yeah, we've already gone through this. We already know what we're doing. We made a company on our own sort of thing, or we're our own thing type of people. But yeah, we don't need to dive too much into that. But yeah, JL, very special type of wrestler. Yeah, I think that's it for the regular episode, guys. So let's get on to some recommendations. It's October. What do we got, guys? Let's start with the Gardener. What do you got for us?
All right, so we're going to do a scary movie this month. I want to do The Monster Squad. We have to do The Monster Squad because the man who plays the cop, the African American cop, Stan Shaw, he and I hang out, so I love him. And both men has nards. That's our thing. Aside from that, you can reach me at 144captain on X.
That sounds good. Daryl, what about you, man? What's your recommendation for the audience?
So I'm not much of a movie guy, but I will recommend Queen of the Damned mostly just for the soundtrack. I think the soundtrack is fantastic, and also just rest in peace to Aaliyah. She was taken from this world way too soon. But I will recommend a video game. Some people might call it a little controversial in terms of like, is it truly a horror game or not? But Devil May Cry. It's like a horror themed action game. It's fantastic. If you have a PlayStation 2 or if you can get a hold of the collection on a next gen console, definitely play through the series. You will not regret it.
All right, fair enough. You mind telling the audience how they can reach you or anything like that?
If you want to reach me, I'm on Instagram. That's under Exceladon City. That's EXCELADON_city. I don't really have a whole lot of social media, but this is the one thing I check pretty regularly. So if you ever want to get a hold of me, that's how you can reach me.
All right, fair enough. All right, so my recommendations this week. I'm going to have a movie and game. So the movie that I'm going to say, it's kind of a horror movie, but it's not the greatest. I'm not going to lie to you. But the thing that I love about it more than anything is the concept, realistically. So the movie for me is going to be Stir of Echoes starring Kevin Bacon. That was probably made like late 90s, maybe early 2000s. But it's not necessarily bad, but it's not great. I just remember enjoying
Bacon?
Yeah. But I just remembered the concept alone is what really kind of got me interested in it. Just the idea of, well, I don't really want to give it away. So anyways, the game that I wanted to recommend. So recently, one of my favorite video games of all time has been remastered, Silent Hill 2. I will say the original, incredible story, and it's very well written from beginning to end. I do highly recommend if you can get a copy of the original, go through it. It's worth it. But the remake just came out, I believe, as of October 8th. So if you guys want to give that a playthrough, let me know how it is, because I honestly don't want to get it until somebody reviews it for me and lets me know, hey, it's still good, just as good as the last, because full remake, not a remaster. But yeah, highly recommend both horror titles. And with that, you guys know how to reach me, at MaintenanceMav on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. As usual, do something nice for somebody. You never know who needs it. And with that, we're out.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.